So we are very excited because it's kind of getting close to that time of year, that Halloween spirit. Put the hat down, Johnny. Put it. Cinco de Mayo is not next week, Johnny. I'm talking about Halloween. Put the tacos down. Let's get on with this. Zeena is here with us, everybody. Zeena Schreck. Zeena, welcome back to the show.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me back. You also have Day of the Dead, don't forget. On November 1st is Day of the Dead, of course.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The Day of the Dead Festival will be a lot of fun. We're going to have good times.
Yeah.
We do celebrate that around here, believe it or not. So it's kind of crazy and cool. Yeah. But we're excited about it. Zeena, tell us what's new. What's exciting?
Oh, lots of things. So first of all, I have a new column for Vice, and that's bi-weekly, but sometimes a little more often, column for Vice. And coming up in the next couple of weeks on November 8th, we're going to be celebrating the 11th anniversary of the Sethian Liberation Movement, otherwise known as SLEM, peace. And it's going to be at the Performa 13 Arts Festival in New York. It's a month-long festival that features different artists. The point of Performa is to focus on the critical role of live performance in the arts. And so this year, their theme is going to be surrealism and the voice as the medium. So with that in mind, I'm going to be doing a performance with set design, and coordinator is Frank Haines, artist, and he's an artist who also has his own musical art form called Blanco and Nori. And also the percussionist who I'm working with, Hisham Bharoocha. He's a very accomplished percussionist who's worked with a lot of big names in the music industry. And then the third person on stage with me will be Anders Hermund. He is like one of my highest initiates in the SLM. He's a founding member of the SLM, so it's entirely appropriate for him to be there. But he's also an artist and architect. So I've got a variety of different people. And with the thought in mind that I will be using mantras as the medium, as the art form. So mantras, they're sacred syllables. They're series of either a single syllable or string of syllables that form words, but they're words with particular intent in mind. So the idea of mantras would be to create certain vibrations, or to align yourself and align others with certain vibrations that are known to create profound positive transformation within yourself and within the environment around you. So this is the basis that the performance will spring from.
Man.
That's a lot to, there's a lot more details than that, but that's the basis of it so far. I should mention, there's an example of one of the mantras that I'll be doing on my YouTube channel. We just made a preview for it on my YouTube channel, so people can have a little listen and get a flavor of what will be. It's also going to be held at the Community Church in New York, which is part of the whole concept of the performance, is this Unitarian Community Church. They incorporate all faiths, so all faiths are represented in different flags in the hall, in the main worship hall, and that's where I'll be performing, is in the main worship hall. And so that is a positive aspiration, to be bringing all faiths together with the unified understanding of the core mystical traditions and the end result of what our practices of anybody's faith, what the practices of those faiths should lead to, which is peace and enlightenment.
Exactly. That's the thing I love about what you're doing. You know, when we have you on, I have to tell you, I feel like, even though I'm not in the room with you, I feel this vibe. It feels like kind of a peaceful, positive, mellow, and relaxing, awesome vibe. It just flows from you, Zeena. So I'm sure people are just going to just love this, you know.
Well, vibe. I mean, it's kind of like a 60s cliche, the vibes, but it's accurate. It's an accurate description of when we practice certain practices. As you know, I'm a tantric Buddhist of the Vajrayana tradition, and when we do certain practices, although this is true in Hindu Tantra as well, and other practices of the Dharma, you do kind of tap into a vibration. It's like a cosmic vibration. And you can do that in a variety of ways. You can do that through still meditation. You can do that through the verbalization of mantras, and many other ways. But it is like, it's an appropriate way of analogy is that it feels and has the sensation of vibration, because there's vibration in all things.
Even now, on a scientific level, the scientists, we have so many people now in the physics realm, who are
that's right.
changing these vibrations, learning what it means when you alter these vibrations, and I think they're getting some surprising results.
That's right. That's so true. And isn't it wonderful that science is catching up to what mysticism is known for millennia?
It's true. It's true. That's how it always works, though. Scientists are supposed to be the most open-minded in the universe, but until they get slapped in the face with it, you know how it is.
Of course, in all sectors of society, there are people who are more open-minded than others, and scientists are no different. There are some closed-minded scientists, and then there are other scientists that have a more broader understanding of what they're exploring, and they do keep a very open mind. So we always like to try to reach out to people who are more open-minded and expansive in their thoughts.
You kind of have to, otherwise you're kind of locked in a room with them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Nobody needs that. We have our fill of that stuff.
That's very constricting, and actually it leads to internal blockages of thought, but also blockages in your body, because the body and mind are entirely connected.
Right.
So when you've got a closed mind, then you've got a cramped body. Basically, you've got blockages throughout the circulation of your body too. So it takes itself, it manifests in how your health is, even whether you're free and open in your mind.
Of course, with you guys, there's so much you bring to the table, and I think once someone steps into your universe, I think they really get a fuller picture, a bigger understanding of maybe the universal code, because I think you help people do that.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's certainly my aspiration. We do the best we can. Any individual, if they have positive aspirations, they do the best they can, and they hope that radiates and that spreads boundlessly. But it's a two-way street too, so others have to be receptive, and that gets back to whether you're closed-minded or whether you're expansive. And but yeah, thank you for that. I consider that a compliment, and I appreciate
it. Definitely is. Yeah, it definitely is, because the whole group that you're with, it just seems like I can tell it's not one of those things where you're a leader with an iron hand, but you're a leader spiritually.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yes, well, I like to refer to it as a guide. If you're lost on the street, you need directions. Well, you can ask somebody that you know must be living in that neighborhood, and they can guide you. And that's what I'm like. I'm like somebody who lives in the neighborhood of the cosmic force of where people might need to be guided. So I like to look at it as like a guide.
I agree. Yeah.
Like someone who you can ask for directions.
Exactly.
But of course, humorously, I like to remind people that nothing is inherently negative or positive. Nothing is inherently good or evil. And so sometimes I joke with my initiates and say, we have a benevolent dictatorship. You can have a dictatorship where, the person who actually is being in the role of the dictator has love and compassion and does wish for the people that they're working with to be freed of pain and suffering, does wish for them to be released of obscurations that hinder them. And so we call that a love dictatorship.
Wow.
That's what we need.
Very much so. Very much so.
So not all dictatorships are malevolent. They can be benevolent, but that's just a joke. Actually, it's not a dictatorship. It's just that I am the centrifugal force of this phenomenon, which is the SLM, and it spreads wide and far. It's worldwide. Like as I'm talking to you on Skype or over the phone or however we do it, I'm talking to you from the future because I'm in Europe right now, so it's a little bit of time travel.
Wow.
So I'm in tomorrow to you. So I might talk to somebody else in a couple of hours who's then in Taiwan, and so then they're in my future, and
right.
So it's just sort of a funny way of looking at it, is how far and wide this spreads, even across time and space.
Well, and for those of our friends out there listening that don't understand, the SLM is Sethian Liberation Movement, which also has connections to tantric Buddhism. Am I correct on that, Zeena?
Well, I have incorporated that as a unity. Yes, that's true. The essence of SLM is that I utilize the tantric practices, which I've been initiated to practice and to teach, and to give blessings for also, that I utilize the God, Set, who was the guiding force, who has been the guiding force through my life, that led me to the tantric practices. I've united them, and that is the basis of the practices within the SLM. So it's unique in that way. And Nicholas and I were the first people to create that unity in practice. And so that's the basis. Yes, that's true. That's the basis of what our practices are about, is understanding Tantra in the true sense, not in the secular kind of debased misunderstanding of Tantra as being only sexual. This is unfortunate misunderstanding of Tantra. Tantra is all-encompassing. It includes practices for every aspect of life and death. And that includes bathing, that includes eating, that includes sleeping, that includes how you begin anything, how you initiate anything. You begin your day a certain way, you begin projects a certain way. And yes, sex can be incorporated into it, although not always. And that's purely because sex is also a part of life. And all aspects of life are included in tantric practices. So you're eating, you're bathing, everything.
Sex is the beginning, and
it is,
that's where life starts. So it's kind of
yes,
it does make sense.
Yes, that's and it's a big subject. It's a big and complicated subject. The beginning.
Yeah, that's very true. And depending on who you ask, you'll get a whole world of different answers.
That's right. Well, the way we like to look at it in Tantric Buddhism is that existence is beginningless and endless. That actually there is no beginning; it's continuous flow, and that it's your consciousness that is continuing, and it's just the physical form that sheds away, and the consciousness continues on to another physical form, or maybe not a physical form, depending on where your karmic ripening and your karmic consequences lead you. That's a big idea in a nutshell. There's much, much more to that idea, trust me. But that's it in a nutshell.
How would you describe the God Set to someone who had never heard of it or had just seen Conan? A lot of times we'll get these letters from people saying, "Oh, we've seen his Conan. That's not what we thought." So,
yeah. Well, yeah. Set is first of all, he is known as the greatest of strength. He is probably he's a celestial god, probably the most ancient god, which many other gods have stemmed from, or our understanding. You could say the emanation of Set has been filtered into many different understandings. And to be honest, even the name Set or Sutek, or all of the different ancient Egyptian variations of his name, they are really, you could look at it as just a shorthand for a phenomenon. And but it is in existence. It is an existent phenomenon. But really, he's known by many names, in many pantheons, and he is a force of nature, or the force of nature, which regulates a kind of ecology of nature. So where he has many qualities that are protective qualities, or qualities of strength, and virtuous qualities, he also has qualities which can seem destructive, but they're not arbitrarily destructive. They're not like random or for no purpose. His destructive qualities are also for the purposes of purification, for awakening. He's known as the awakener. So when he delivers, I'm saying this in shorthand because then we can also get into what do I mean by he, and what do I mean by is this a being like something you can see, but that's a whole other subject. But so I'm just using this for quick understanding. When he delivers us in life something that's very disturbing or very troubling, or strife, or some kind of hardship, or some profound blow or trauma in our life, these are, it's like you need to know where pain is to know that there is something that needs to be addressed. So although he creates destruction and pain in some ways, it is not arbitrary and it is not malignant. It is for the purposes of waking you up and making you realize here is a part of your life you have been ignoring. Here is something you need to pay attention to. Here is something that needs to be addressed, and you need to deal with it. So that can come in the form of a nightmare. He's a god that's known for delivering nightmares. It could be in the form of something which you, as it's happening, you may believe that it's a misfortune in your life, but actually, in time, you see that it was something that was necessary. Those are the kinds of things that how this god functions. When I talked about the ecology of the cosmos, that this god is like a regulator of the ecology of the cosmos, what I meant by that was, for example, you imagine a brush fire, a random, out-of-control forest fire. But these forest fires, they erupt to purify and to cleanse. It's true, it's not pleasant for the life that exists in those areas, and that is something that we as humans have to deal with, and animals have to deal with. But ultimately, in the bigger, broader scope, any environmentalist or forest ranger understands that these brush fires, these random outbreaks of fires in forests, are for cleansing the old forestry that needs to be purified, so that new can grow and rise. So that's just like an example, one example, of how Set is a regulator of the cosmic ecology. And this is something that I came to realize through my own experiences of having myself personally quite a lot of blows in my life to my development, and understanding that, okay, there's a reason behind this. These are things that I need to pay attention to. I need to wake up, and I need to address these things. And everybody has that. It's part of cyclic existence.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's part of people have an affinity for certain times of the year, or people have an affinity for certain qualities, or people have an affinity for one thing and an aversion for another. But all of that is part of cyclic existence, which Set is like a regulator of. even within his seeming chaos.
Right. That's true. And let me get your take on this, because we have had so many different guests speaking of gods from, Egypt and Greece and Christian, of course, and different ideologies and religions. What exactly do you think a god is? Some of them have told us it's maybe alien life forms. Some of them have told us it's an omnipresent being. Some say it's a spiritual being, maybe higher than us in a different dimension. What do you guys think that a god is?
Well, I would say it could be all of those things, actually. It could be a celestial being that does, for example, Set is he's always known as the foreigner. He's always known as the outsider. He's always known as the force which has come from the outside. And one of the reasons why he's known that way is because some of the ways in ancient times that he was perceived to manifest was through meteorites, through this matter being, colliding with Earth. And in fact, one of the most famous meteorites that was an ancient shrine and altar to Set, which was worshipped by ancient Gnostic Sethians, is the Kaaba stone that at Mecca. So originally, that, just to give you an idea of the connection to Set as being a deity from outside in the cosmos that comes to Earth. That's an example of through meteorites. So yes, all of those descriptions of what God or the divine is, they're like, you could say, they're ways that the mind of certain deities manifest, is how we feel them and interpret them. And for each person, that's an individual experience, but so many people have the same kind of experience that there's no denying that exists. Just because you might not be able, maybe you don't have the knowledge or the skills or the apparatus to be able to accurately describe what it is, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That would be like saying, because I have never met you, Todd Sheets, in person, because I haven't experienced you in the physical flesh form, that I can say, there is Todd Sheets, it doesn't mean you don't exist.
True.
So when people get on this kind of idea that that I only believe in what I see and experience, that's true to a degree, but it doesn't mean that because you don't experience it, something doesn't exist.
Well, it's kind of like, of all places, I was at Steak and Shake the other night, and I was having a conversation that went kind of philosophical with someone there, one of the employees, and he was saying that he was frustrated with someone who was saying, well, we're revolving around the sun, but then our universe is revolving here, and he says, well, our universe couldn't possibly be moving. If our solar system is moving, that doesn't mean our universe is moving. And I corrected him, and I said, listen, look at a cup of water, drop a bunch of like plastic beads in there, stir them up, they're going around. That's our universe. Then you take that cup of water and you stick it in a big like bucket of water, and in that bucket of water you have a bunch of cups of water. You stir them up and they're all moving, and inside that cup the beads are still moving. And then you take that bucket and you put it in a swimming pool and you do the same thing. Then you've got multitudes of things moving within other things, moving within other things, moving. So I think we as a race, some scientists have come up with the type A, B, C, these type civilizations. I think we are so young even though we've been here for a long time, I still think we are so young in our civilization. I don't think we have the ability to even barely even to maybe not even scratch the surface. I mean, I like to say scratch the surface, but we may not have even done that yet. Maybe we're just kind of rubbing at it to kind of understand where we are.
I would agree with you. I think that's a pretty accurate analogy. And about the water pouring the water into each vessel and it growing, but it's still exactly as you said. You summed that up really nicely, and I agree with you. I think that it's a kind of arrogance on some humans' part to think, oh, well, we're at the height of our advancement. because that's
yeah.
silly. That's silly. If you know anything about history, you know that we are only where we are right now. But what will be, what there is in the future that we don't know yet, it's just a ridiculous idea to think that we're at the height of our advancement right now. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, by my understanding.
Well, and even if you look back at the Egyptians and the Aztecs, look at the mathematical ability and the irrigation systems and the way they could do things inside these pyramids. I mean, some of that stuff is like laser precision.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And connected to cyclic existence, history and the development of our life as we know it here, we go through dark phases. We go through dark ages. We go through periods where we are not so advanced.
I agree. This one will be called Facebook, I think. That's what...
Well, I'm glad you said that and I didn't. Because every time I go off on a tangent about social media, everybody gets very arrogant and on their high horse and says, well, why do you have a website and why do you have Facebook? Well, you have to fight fire with fire, don't you?
That's right. You have to be able to get the message out, girl. That's the way I look at it. I mean,
but it doesn't mean I have to be addicted to it.
That's right. And for something called social media, it sure does make everyone antisocial. It just drives me.
It's not a very social thing at all.
I agree completely. It's actually really damaging, I think, because it isolates more people, and when you're isolated, of course, that engenders depression. People are not happy when they're doing whatever they do that occupies their time on this kind of social media. It's like a way of killing time until you die, basically.
Exactly.
Well, they should call it angry social is what it should be.
Yeah.
Angry media.
Yeah. You're preaching to the converted here.
I think a big part of it is, you made a point. If people aren't talking to each other, you don't know intent. And people could be joking, being sarcastic, and suddenly they're yelling at each other on there. And you're like, dude, I was just joking. And you can't get it. Oh, my God. It just becomes this huge ball.
Without that human interaction where, we are animals. Humans are animals. And we need those signals that animals interact in real time, with scent. With all of our senses and, all of the things that give us signals to and from each other. But obviously, when you're operating remotely, it's like being in a spaceship in outer space or in a submarine or, how can you communicate effectively that way?
Exactly.
How can you live effectively that way? It's a very unenriching existence.
I agree.
I always imagine people sitting around their laptops, their desktops, and they're kind of like a cat ready to pounce on a mouse. They're just waiting for something to pop on Facebook.
Because they're bored.
So they can jump on there and spit out hate, and it happens quite a bit.
Human interaction, even though sometimes it's frustrating, it really does enrich your life. Because
you could be entirely misinterpreting their signals through just the electronic medium.
Very wise words.
So what you're describing, yes, that could be true with people that you have a history of knowing already. So then obviously all means of communication can be effective with somebody that you have a basis, a foundation from which to grow. Then anything could be used. But to begin, for example, I really don't, yes, I'm sure it can happen and it works sometimes, but I really don't understand the idea of like finding your partner, your life's partner online. I don't understand that.
Like Hugh's one of our co-hosts who's here sometimes, and he met his wife through the internet, and because he was in Scotland and she was in America, and then they ended up hooking up and becoming friends. She came there to do a school function or something, and it ended up they actually hit it off, and then it became a real relationship. But until then, it was just kind of pals, online kind of thing.
Well, I was reading an article today that was talking about in Japan how social media is actually killing the sex life of people. They said that 40% of people in Japan are not sexually active, and that's with women and men.
Wow.
I believe it because, first of all, it creates a kind of apathy. And also, look at what most people look online. They're looking at pornography. But pornography, not that I don't care what, people's choices and what they view is, but if that's all you're looking at and you're looking at it in such abundance, then it desensitizes you. It's like eating chocolate cake for a steady diet, and then wouldn't you want to vomit after a while after just eating chocolate cake all the time? So most people, given the opportunity to do all of these things in the privacy of their own home, they gravitate to the most the most uninspiring material.
Yes.
Well,
Which now I'm not saying that all pornography is uninspiring, but let's face it, there's an awful lot of garbage. And if that's a person's steady diet and that's what their exposure is and that's what they think, it begins to mutate the thoughts of what even interaction with the opposite sex is, or the same sex, if whatever. But sexual interaction, it mutates that thought of what that even is or what it should be. And I can completely believe that this study is accurate, because I've been teaching meditation for many decades now, and I've seen because the meditation is basically the study and the mastery of mind, but I've seen the deterioration of mind since the onset of the internet. I've seen that students, they cannot focus as well. And in the past 20 years especially, that has gotten rapidly deteriorated, the ability to stay focused. And then what comes out of that is, then if people can't stay focused on a task, let's not get into multitasking and how you should try to avoid that at all costs. Because actually there is no such thing as multitasking. The brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So the idea of multitasking is stupid, because what you're doing is you're fragmenting your attention, and so nothing gets done properly.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But returning back to, what this fragmentation of the mind, if you can't even focus for a little bit on something concentratedly, then the human tendency is to begin to tell yourself stories about, well, I don't need to. Well, I'm a superhuman and I can do anything. And then that leads to hubris, obviously.
Yeah.
So this is why meditation is such an important thing, still meditation.
Well, that's the thing with us. I mean, around here, it's funny. If you catch us on the internet, we'll be on there. You won't catch us with porn, though. You'll catch us with Batman sites and Star Wars and
Godzilla.
nerd stuff, yeah. Or in Johnny's case, online gambling.
Yeah.
'Cause you can't keep the Indian out of the casino.
Oh, poor Johnny.
Typecasting.
Did you have something over there, Johnny?
Well, to me, the point with the whole fantasy and the porn and everything, I think it is the point that it hurts relationships, because you got a lot of these guys and girls, and they see these models, they see how beautiful they are, and then they want to have that in real life, and that's not always real. And then they try to make their real life based on that fantasy life.
You're right, it's not real at all. In most cases, actually, people don't look like that, and it's with cosmetic enhancements.
Yes.
So it is entirely unrealistic, and
Or
it's
Photoshop.
unfortunate, 'cause
Yeah.
Right.
it shapes people's standards of beauty. Yeah.
That's terrible, too.
And that's what they're looking
Yeah.
for. So since they're looking for that, they might miss out on somebody that just spiritually might be that right connection.
the
for
right
them.
guy, chick or guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And schools are not helping either. I don't know about other countries, but like here, my daughter's 12. And where she goes to school at, what they have started this year is they don't have books anymore. Now they give them all iPad. And they come into school and they sit in the classroom. And all these kids have their faces buried in an iPad. I went there one day for a carnival last year at the end of the year. And all these kids, they're not, there's a screen playing a movie and they're not doing any work.
One of us.
None of them are talking. They're all staring into this iPad. And I'm like, this is part of the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is why I say we are living in a basically illiterate society now. We have devolved, and this is like when the Catholic Church had to deliver Latin to the heathens because they were illiterate. We are living in an illiterate society now, when people can only respond to images. They can only respond to, learning through pictures.
Oh yeah, stimuli.
They can't read anymore.
But
they can't follow a train of thought anymore. It's not everybody, but it is getting definitely worse. So exactly what you're talking about. That's a very sad.
Yeah, definitely. Some kids are algebra smart and some kids are book smart, but yet when it comes to social or street smarts, there is none at all.
Well, my son's 9, and in school, I swear, they do not work on spelling. And we went up and we were like, why aren't you worried about spelling? They go, with spell check, we don't worry about it anymore.
What?
And I'm like, and I'm serious. My son's like in 3rd grade, and I'm like, why aren't you guys having spelling words? And they're like, we're not concerned with spelling words now. If he spells anything wrong, they don't even care anymore. It is,
I'm
though.
so sorry.
I'm sorry too.
Because of course, that has to be established early in life. You can't go backwards and learn that those basic fundamentals of learning. You can't do that as an adult. It's very, very, very hard.
Yeah, that's what it's doing. Yeah, making everyone dependent on technology, and when the grid goes down.
But then that means that the computer is a ball and chain. So that means everybody's a prisoner of a computer. At no time in history have humans been reliant on one appliance.
True.
This is insanity. This is insanity that everybody more and more has to be, and I don't even want to be on it, but the degree to which I have to be on it just to do simple ordering of, because I'm a photographer and I order supplies or whatever, you do online banking. Everybody uses the computer for everything now. So it is like your ball and chain. Everybody has their own personal little ball and chain. That is like a form of prison. You're being kept in a prison. That's insanity.
That's what
totally
the smart device is now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you've hit on something there, Zeena. It's very important that people need to think about is, you in some cases you have no choice because they've forced you online. Oh, we don't do that anymore.
Right.
You have to go online and do it. I mean, they are physically eliminating human jobs, forcing you online, forcing you to interact with nothing except for a computer, so it's very difficult.
And there's even another aspect to it too, is what are we getting from the screen that's radiating out at us all the time as we're doing this, sitting with this electronic ball and chain day in and day out. For me, I suffer from migraines, debilitating migraines, chronic debilitating migraines. And I know other people who have migraines too. And staring into that screen is absolute torture when you're having a migraine.
Of course.
So it's torture for a lot of people. But and so actually, in a strange way, for people who are light sensitive, there are people whose vision is light sensitive, and the staring, that you have to stare into a screen to do all of your work, basically. All work, whether you work at a government office or whether you work, for anything. You're staring into a screen that nobody has given much talk or analysis as to what does it do to the retina, what does it do to your mind when you're staring into this screen constantly all day. It can't be good.
Well, then you also have Wi-Fi. You have radio frequencies. Like the guy that's head of Sprint, they were going to put a cell phone tower, by his home, and he threw a fit and stopped them from putting a cell phone tower by his home.
I have one in my backyard,
but he doesn't tell you why. He just didn't want it there.
The very interesting.
I'll tell you why. You ever seen Halloween 3? Yeah, that's why.
That's exactly
Silver
why.
Shamrock. There's no need. And
we go back to a TP and a horse.
They do. All these devices do emit dangerous garbage, and
they do,
and we're bombarded by it every day.
I do have to say, though, there's one good thing about the internet, and that is people can get information, and sometimes it's good information. Like Zeena will be live in New York City, and that is great information. Before we go, and we are winding down, let's go ahead and make sure, Zeena, that we get all that information to your fans and your friends out there, because this is an important deal. You're going to be in the United States of America, and you're going to be doing this deal.
Yes. So it will be on November 8th. And it's going to be at the Community Church in New York. And, you can check my Facebook, which is Zeena, official Zeena Schreck Facebook. there are announcements posted regularly there. And as I said, the preview is on my YouTube channel, which is Zeena Schreck Official. You can Google Zeena Schreck Official, and you'll get directly to the YouTube channel that has a preview. And go to my website at zeena.eu, as in European Union.
There you go.
And you can get all of the information. And yes, I think it will be a very fun and rewarding and interesting experience. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I hope to see a lot of people there.
Gosh, I wish I could be there. I really do. I would really love to meet you in person and to be able to sit in that room.
Well, we will, I'm sure. I'm sure that will happen eventually. I have no doubt.
I believe you. I think so as well.
I want to just end this real quickly with a brief dedication and an aspiration prayer that whatever positive benefit came from all of this, whatever merit or understanding, may it go deeper and deeper and hasten all of our way to liberation and enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Om Amedewa Hari.
Wow. Did you feel that, guys? I felt it.
I did.
That was good stuff. That was good. See, Zeena is awesome. That's why she has to be on this show every year.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You know you're a member of the family. Anything you ever need, you let me know.
Well, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
a member of our family, too.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Family soon. Okay. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good night. Or morning, I should say.
Yeah, it's morning there.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's good morning here. Okay, you
That
have
is
a good
awesome.
evening.
Take care.
Sweet dreams.
Bye-bye. Wow, guys. Zeena Schreck, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah, she's an awesome person, man. You know, she comes on and just you feel the awesome in the room. It's really good stuff.
That's something that we need is somebody who's a staple of positivity and keep pushing that, because there's a big lack of that in the world today.
Well, and that's the thing about Zeena. She's been through a lot. Her father was Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
Now, that's a wild beginning, going through all that transformation, becoming who she is today. That was a hell of a journey, you know. Exciting.